Om Danar Grihitva Upanishadam Hastram Shradam Hupasanasita Sanjayita Ayamya Tad Bhavakatena Chetasa Laksham Tadevaksharam Somya Vidhi Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Taking as bow that mighty weapon furnished by the great Upanishads, fasten to it the arrow of mind, made sharpened by thoughts on reality alone. Then, pulling full strength, O student, take aim, release, and penetrate the mark, that imperishable Brahman. For there shines Brahman. May that Brahman protect us, sustain us, illumine our thinking process, and free us from fault-finding and impediments, and reveal to us the essence of the teachings in the scriptures. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us. May peace be unto all. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome everyone here to SRV Hawaii on the Big Island, where we are starting into a new class series, probably 3 classes we plan on the Atmabodha Upanishad, one of the Upanishads from the Rig Veda. I've been concentrating on the Rig Veda recently with the Bhavricha Upanishad and a few others that are real treasures from probably what has to be my favorite Veda. But basically, we're selecting the Atmabodha. Don't get it confused with the book Atmabodha or the by one of our great Swamis, Swami Nikhilananda, who is our founder, Lex Hickson's initiatory guru and Holy Mother's student. But that book is, of course, Shankara's Atmabodha that Nikhilananda did a commentary on. And that's a very soup to nuts kind of book for all people interested in entering into Vedanta and all that it offers in this day and age through Swami Vivekananda. So as far as the Atmabodha Upanishad itself, it's found in the Rig Veda. Sometimes I mentioned it. It's called the I Am Upanishad because it has all those statements to that effect in it. And the Westerners have become particularly enamored of that expression. They like this straight declaration of truth from the ancient sources like that, from something so long-lived and time-tested as Indian darshana, like the Vedas and Vedanta. And what I was just chanting about Upanishada Mahastram, that is, Mahastra means great, Maha. And so these scriptures are seen in India as the great scriptures. They're very non-dual in their tone and tenor, but they also lend themselves well to the wisdom of qualified non-dualism called Vishishtadvaita. And they even have some very beautiful turns of phrase into devotion and so forth, and some parables even, if we know by the Katha Upanishad, the Kena Upanishad, and others, which lend themselves to a kind of rich dualism, Dvaita. So they cover a great ground in their sweep of 108 scriptures. And as we said before, there's probably been a lot that have been lost over time because the Rig Veda is probably, if not the oldest, one of the oldest scriptures in the world. And so a lot's been lost in the interim of thousands of years, which is one of those downsides of the passage of time. Nonetheless, we have this great Upanishad, which is just very short upon us. Basically, it's like, I guess, 8 scriptures in the first section and 10 slokas. 8 slokas in the first section and 10 slokas in the second section. So we're going to spread ourselves over 3 weeks amongst those 18 slokas. It seems like it could all get done in one class, but there are many, many deep implications to the terse statements that are used here by the Rishi in this Upanishad. So we'll spend some time on those with some teachings that we're familiar with, some teachings that we're not so familiar with, and then some teachings that even if we are familiar with, we could always go deeper with them, which is always the case with Indian darshanas. Darshanas means like Vedanta, Yoga, Samkhya, Tantra, and so forth. These are great movements in India, each of their own merit and with each having their own particular facets to offer to us to enrich our spiritual life and make us many-sided, like Swami Vivekananda was asking for, to try and have a four-yoga life rather than a one-yoga life or a no-yoga life. Come to think of it, even a false yoga life with what's going on recently. So we have this four-yoga life that brings us into contact with Jnanam, Bhakti, Dhyanam, which is meditation, and Karma Yoga, which is something that in contemporary times we could avail ourselves of good effects from if we did all of our work selflessly in the service of God in other beings, to quote Vivekananda. So with case of any new Upanishad, of course, I try and create a cover chart for it so that we can taste it first, or maybe smell it first, get the aroma of what's coming forth from it on all those levels, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, and Dvaita. And then we can enter into it and feast our eyes on it. So, and then we can hear the words. So our senses become elevated by encountering these great Upanishads. It's a great privilege and a great benefit and gift from the Divine Mother of the universe that these are still here and they've come to us, made their way all the way through many millennia of time, as well as to this country in the West, Europe and America, so that we have these ancient Vedic scriptures and others of yogic and tantric influence too amongst us. And so with that said, I think as we start any good Upanishad, it always starts with a peace chant. So although I've already done one to start out this class, I want to do this one that is here in the Upanishad, which all of you know, but you probably aren't familiar with the English translation. So I'll use this translator's English translations to give us more dimension to the chant. But you can chant it with me. Om Sahana. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karabhavai Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May my speech be based on the mind. May the mind be based upon the speech. O self-effulgent one, reveal thyself to me. May you both, speech and mind, be the carriers of the wisdom of the Vedas to me. May not all that I have heard depart from me. I shall join together day and night through this study. I shall utter what is verbally true. I shall utter what is mentally true. May that Brahman protect me. May that Brahman protect the speaker, my teacher. May that Brahman protect us both. Let there be peace in me, and let there be peace in my environment. Let there be peace in the forces that act upon me. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So a nice English translation that different than the one I've had all of you memorized, that kind of fleshes out the atmosphere and the feeling with which you approach your teacher and with you approach a scripture like an Upanishad. It's done in a very formal way, which is something that would be good to bring back to our world and our time and our country, doing things with a forethought and insight and reverence. Very important, particularly when you approach the illumined souls and what they've given us in the form of revealed scriptures. That's Viveka scriptures, and those are always accompanied by that power to separate the wheat from the chaff, as Jesus had said. The sentient from the insentient, as Kapila had said, Purusha from Prakriti. And you can see how he drives in right away to begin to do that, because the very first sloka, and I'll read a few of the slokas for you, and then we'll start studying them. The innermost Brahman is Om. Saying this word, the yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. Om. Next, I bow to Narayan, having Shankha, Chakra, and Gada in hand. Worshipping him, the Upasaka will go to Vaikuntha. That's sloka section 1, sloka 1. So basically starts out with the great word Om, which we will look at. Also mentions how if you understand Om thoroughly, then you'll get beyond the world of birth and death in the three worlds, or you'll get beyond AUM by connecting Om and understanding it. A is waking, and U is dreaming, and M is deep sleep. So these are the three conditions of our consciousness for embodied beings here on Earth. And for beings also beyond Earth in the three worlds, they also have a kind of sleep, a kind of emptiness or formlessness they go into, just like we do tonight when we wake up from deep sleep into waking. Those are called Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti in Sanskrit. So they're very ancient words that carry a lot of meaning with them for a very long time. If you hear those words, then it's just like hearing the word karma or the word maya or the word guru. It immediately takes you back to these ancient times and these words they used for things that were upon them, that some of them which they had to filter through and penetrate, and some of them which they had to uncover and accelerate. Basically, you want these good things to come. That's what the chant says, right? May good things come to the speaker. May peace come to the student. May we learn together is the beautiful translation of that peace chant, it's called. He goes on then after he mentions Om, and then he mentions a cycle of birth and death. Two things I'm afraid we didn't get from our parents when we grew up here in the West. And probably it's not being taught that deeply even in India today to the children that are being born. Otherwise, they would be of a lot different nature and character, searching and seeking for God. So basically, the beauty of it is that the first word he mentions is Brahman, the innermost Brahman. Second word he mentions is Om. The third word is basically samsara, how to get away from birth and death and ignorance. And then he says, I bow to Narayan. So the fourth thing he mentions is Ishvara, and in the form of Vishnu, the Trinity in the form of Vishnu. And he says he has Sankhya, Chakra, and Gada in his hands. So he's got the conch shell, and he's got the chakra. You can see that. I'll show you pictures of that. He's whirling around his finger. He uses that as a weapon to cut away obstructions and so forth. And he's also got the mace. You know, I call that Gada, the mace, which he threatens the wicked with. He'll club them and smash them into smithereens if they help hurt his precious spiritual children. So those are the usual things you see Vishnu holding in his forearms when you see images of him. Sometimes, you know, he's also pictured with innumerable amounts of arms and heads too, which are all the gods that fall under the purview of the Trinity. We might take this in order to look at Om first. So basically, though, I told you I'd give you a kind of taste overall of the Upanishad. We can look at this chart on the I Am Upanishad, as it's called, and basically see this, what's here for us. course, the images of a sailing boat and the ocean and the waves and bubbles, the boat itself. So that's straight out of the later verses, which we'll come to. The quote on the top then says, "In the wide ocean, there are many things, from the bubble to the boat to the wave, but the ocean does not desire any of them. Likewise, I am the ocean of liberation, desiring nothing whatsoever from the three worlds." So the three worlds are in this ocean of transmigration. We call that samsara sagara, right? You heard those words, samsara sagara. Sagara means ocean. And then, of course, there's Ananda Sagara, the ocean of bliss, which would be there all around Lord Vishnu if you were to have darshan in him. Remember, he said the upasana will go to Vaikuntha. So the one who practices upasana is an upasaka. He sits near to Vishnu. So that signifies us coming close to our chosen ideal, whether it be Vishnu, Shiva, or Shakti. Everyone has their chosen ideal that they're particularly aligned with and have the greatest amount of affection and natural feeling for. So that's how you want to approach these great beings, is to sit near to them. As my teacher used to say, don't stay far away from the fire. If you want to get warm, come close. So no matter how great those beings are, or how off-putting they might be, or how intimidated you might be with them, you have to get over that and come closer and closer and closer into them. So with the case of deities that aren't in the body, how do I get close to them? I meditate upon them within the shrine of my heart. And that opens up the cathedral of the heart, you might say. But first you have to polish off the window of the mind, right? If you polish off the window of the stained glass window of the mind, then you'll see that it's there residing in the cathedral of the heart. Some of that beautiful language that the Upanishads use metaphorically to describe this process. So that ocean, I am that ocean of liberation. So I therefore titled this chart, which is a cover chart for this Atma Bodha Upanishad, The Boundless Ocean of Kaivalya. Kaivalya is a beautiful word which is synonymous with liberation. It has a secondary meaning too, of being how can I get close to the formless? I'm going to have to get beyond everything that has form. So that everything that's produced by Prakriti, by nature, has form, right? So Kaivalya has that secondary meaning of isolating myself from nature, from earth, fire, sky, water, air, and so forth. I must meditate beyond them. So those are always being beheld by my five senses. So then I have to shut my senses, which is why you see people going into silence and shutting their ears, people going into fasting and shutting off their tongues and their taste buds, people going into meditation and shutting their eyes. This is all indicative, if you're doing it for the right reasons, that is to have a vision of Brahman or Ishvara, or to hear the Om, or to see the light, which we were talking about last series of class, right? The mystic and the visionary. And then you're going to have to shut down the senses and take them off their objects, take them off the five elements that make up the objects. So that's what's meant here by Kaivalya. That's what's a secondary meaning for Kaivalya. Really, what the Rishi is using here is that basically absolute freedom or liberation from everything. That is, Kaivalya in this case is a state that's already been won. It's already at hand for this great soul. That's why he can declare, I have realized myself to be the ocean. So then if I'm the ocean, what am I not? Well, let's see, I'm probably not the boat there, which has been labeled the body-mind mechanism. That goes through all the changes. The body-mind mechanism is fourfold in our tradition. It has ego in it. So that's going to be also a distancer, from the Lord, who likes egolessness. And then it has thoughts in it, chitta. So the thoughts have to be quelled. Another thing that has to go silent or quiet is your mind, not just your mouth. And it has also uh, duality in it called manas. So the mind is always seeking dual things, as you might have noticed. It's reacting to good and bad, pleasure and pain, virtue and vice, birth and death. And that reaction, is upsetting the balance of its yoga. If it didn't react, then it would just stay in yoga. It would accept that there are dualities everywhere in this world, and it would be able to more easily transcend them and not get so overwrought with them. And then the fourth thing in the antakarana, the inner cause, mind is the buddhi, thank God. The buddhi is called the intelligence or the intellect. If the buddhi can be honed and expanded, as we were talking about at yesterday's satsangs and God blog sessions for an hour each on Saturday morning every week, if if you get a hold of that buddhi and it can be honed and turned into a goad, they say, or a point, then basically, it can penetrate through anything that Maya throws at you. And also it can penetrate through the name form of nature. Now, there's names and forms that people get so attached to. Um, to see the formless behind form is what they're trying to avail us of. So that, as I said, Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about Swamiji just kind of walking around with his hair tousled and when he was a young boy and his clothes unkempt. And he was just always looking as if, kind of vacantly into the sky, as if he was really looking inside. Like even when he was in action and even when he was talking and he was moving, he was doing it all in an inner world instead of this outer world, which so many people are just so attached to and clinging to selflessly. So he was just really in another zone, as they say, or another level of his own consciousness inside. So that's kind of what's trying to be expressed here when you talk about the buddhi, the intellect that has gone beyond mere intellectual pursuits that bring money and fame and lands and wealth and those kinds of things that are all a part of Maya and bring you into contact with nature alone. And then you don't have Koivalya anymore. You don't have that freedom from name and form, time and space, and change that's going on. So even as far as the ocean goes, you might recall my teacher used to always tell me, if you want to have peace, you must dive into the uttermost depths of the ocean. If you stay on its surface, you get tossed by its waves. So that's another thing here that I am negates. I am the ocean. I'm not its boats on it. I'm not the waves on it, nor am I the bubbles rising up from, you say, the movement of the boat, maybe. Action causes reaction. So he's saying there, I'm not subject to karma anymore. I've transcended particularly negative karma, klista vrittis, but also aklista vrittis. Even the positive ones I've gone beyond so that I don't have this problem with bouncing back and forth between a good day and a bad day, or between good things that happen in my life and negative things that happen to me in my life, or karma that comes forward and karma that's in my past lifetimes. All those kinds of dualities, whether they are there in the body or in the energy, prana, or in the mind's thoughts. He says, I am the ocean now. I've gone beyond those things. Isn't it beautiful? So the ocean does not desire those things. So if you're identifying with the bubbles, then identifying with motion inside of the ocean, or if you're identifying with the waves, you're identifying with activities across the surface all the time. If you're identifying with the boat, then you're identifying with the body-mind mechanism. We have another word for that in Vedanta in English called psychophysical being. So these are things to meditate upon so that what? You can distance yourself from them. Isn't it an interesting thought that it's not just giving up objects of the senses that are external, but when you get to the mind, you see that the mind's responsible for producing objects through its power of thought. And then all of a sudden, I don't think I want to be my mind either. So you go beyond both body and mind, or both psychophysical at levels of your being, to get that distance from everything that makes you now a witness. If you become a witness of the ocean, pretty soon you can enter into it and say, I am that ocean, like this rishi is doing. And that's the I am part of it. You can see some of the statements of I am on the chart there. He says throughout the Upanishad, and you'll hear them over the next 3 Sundays, Om Namaha. Before he starts saying them, he's got a great reverence for them. So he chants the name of the Lord. And then he says, I am the pure vision. He says that in section 2. So he's got the pure vision as that witness consciousness of the whole ocean itself, which, let's just say, most people very rarely get a view of the ocean of consciousness. What's another ocean they don't get a view of? The ocean of samsara. They don't know that they're caught in cycles of birth and death over and over again with their ancestors. There's one ocean they get a view of. That's the aqua ocean. That is the ocean of water here on earth. That is water itself. But very few people know the deity of water, or how to treat water reverently, how to drink pure water, how to keep from tainting liquid water with alien things, like, say, alcohol and things like that. So basically, you see water here, then you've got a great responsibility to own up to reverencing the deity of water. It's been a gift given to you, and it nurtures your food on earth, and it affords you a beautiful dip in the ocean like this. You can jump right off that boat and just swim away if you want. Have you done that before? Been on a boat and felt so free by just stripping down to your bathing suit, just jumping right in the ocean and swimming away from the boat. So that's a great feeling that you have when you find out that you're not the body, nor are you the mind and intellect. The intellect has become honed so much that's allowed you to penetrate through I am the world, I am the body, I am the mind, and now it can say, I'm the pure vision. I'm that which is looking on to body, mind, mechanism, and all its actions. And I've distanced myself from them now, and I'm now the witness. And therefore, he says and goes on, I am the inner self. So, of course, we know even Lord Buddha was talking about the self in all. I am the self in all, Vivekananda says in his song of the Sannyasin. And Lord Buddha said there are 2 selves here, the great self and the small self. And the small self needs to offer itself to the great self, Buddha nature, that's called. So the inner self then is a very important thing in all the Indian darshanas. In Vedanta, of course, we have the word Atman. In Samkhya, we have the word Purusha. And in Tantra, we have Paramatman or Paramashiva. So there are basic different designations for this inner self. And it must be said here that words limit things, of course. So there is probably a better way of saying it. Maybe the transcendent self would be better, because sometimes the inner self is used to signify the mind. That's who I think I am after I'm the body. I think that now I think I'm the intellect, which is where the intellectual people go. If they're not so attracted to the body anymore, they go to the intellect right away. But we just said the intellect has to reveal something much deeper and much better. So that's the true inner self with a capital S. He goes on saying, I am expansive bliss. So it's not just wisdom and its concomitants that he's focused in on. He's now found the store of ananda in him. That is the very nature of Brahman, because he started out saying Brahman, so he had to come around to this nature of Brahman. And they say the nature of Brahman is Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So Sat is truth, Chit is this awareness of consciousness, and Ananda is bliss, which is the very nature. You put those three together, then you get a good idea of who or what that is. That means with a capital T, Tat, Brahman. So he's, he can look at the ocean and its waves or its bubbles, or he can get on the boat of the body-mind mechanism, but he's just getting a little bit of bliss from those things. It's called happiness, then it's called joy, then it's called elation. But it's not until you get peace that you can get bliss. Vilapya shantim paramam bhajasva, Shankar says, right? Nyachatmani tam nyacha. You dissolve everything back into the Atman. And that gives you this peace that passes all understanding. And then you're standing before the fount of bliss, which is Brahman itself. And there you can say fully, aham sakshibhutam is the Sanskrit. The English is, I am the witness of everything now. Before I was participant. Well, we have to be perfectly direct here and honest, is that most people would prefer the participant to the witness. But there's no doubt also, to be perfectly honest, that the witness has a much better objective view of everything, not only the bliss of Brahman and Atman and Ishvara, which we'll get to in a minute, but it also has a much better view of changing phenomena, right? So this changing phenomena called Maya on the samsaric wheel is what's getting people imbalanced. It's what's causing them suffering. It's what's causing them wrong discrimination. Wrong discrimination really is to desire things that aren't to be desired. As Gaudapada said, you have to know the difference between what is to be desired, what is to be left alone, and then what's to be taken to yourself. These are the three different kinds of samadhi and Advaita Vedanta. You'll find them listed in Gaudapada's Karika on the Upanishad Mahastram, that is, on the Mandukya Upanishad. So this being has come to the witness of all changing phenomena, and other people are participants in it, therefore they're suffering the effects of karma. This is why he can say, I'm beyond karma, I'm the pure vision of everything that's going on. All of these I ams connect in a composite package of perfection. Then he says, and I'm going through these early because you'll see them later on, and I won't have to comment so much on them in the next two Sundays, is this whole list of I am statements there in the horizon beyond the ocean. He says, I am the subtle most. The Sanskrit word for that's very beautiful. It's called anaranyan. So I'm not just the subtle. If I were just the subtle, I would be beyond the gross. The gross means the physical body, the five elements, the five senses, the objects, and everything that's happening out here, which is, let's be honest again, a bit gross when you look at it. Not just gross in terms of coarseness, but gross in the terms of off-putting again. You don't want to participate in that kind of ignorance and samsara and bad actions that are going on in politics, in military, and so forth. I was actually looking at the five universal laws lately, and I came across the five transgressions in Buddhism. First one is not to support or be a part of the military in any way. So I like that about Buddhism. It's probably why Buddhism's one of the least populated religions in the world, because it's a warlike world. And everyone's getting everything by fighting. And they like fighting. It's not just that people are saying, oh, I shouldn't kill or I shouldn't hurt anymore. It's like, oh, I have to give up my rifle. I have to give up my nuclear armament. I don't want to do that. I like them, you see. So it's not just a matter of morality or immorality anymore, that you should not kill, but that's been forgotten and been replaced by this preference for violence. That's himsa. But there's a great goddess out there, who's one of my favorites. My three favorite goddesses, you could probably say that is minor goddesses, because we know who the great goddess is. thanks to Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. My three favorite goddesses are the goddess of peace, Shanti, and the goddess of nonviolence, Ahimsa, and uh, and I'll save the other one for later because she's going to come into the scene here pretty soon. Um, so if I were just a gross, then would be something I would want to refine myself. I'd be looking to the subtle, right? The word is called sukshma. So from the gross, um, and the stula, it's called in Sanskrit, to the subtle is called the sukshma. In fact, these are names for this boat. The body part of it is called stula, and the mind part of it is called sukshma. So you have two bodies there. You have a body that's physical, and you have a body that's subtle. Notice the subtitle at this point, please. The causal person without a cause. And this is, of course, Lord Vishnu. And we're getting to him soon. So we can talk about not only Brahman, but Ishvara. Because you say, this being here who's saying I am is having the experience of Brahman. He's not having the experience of Vishnu. But how did he get to the experience of Brahman? By coming through Vishnu. That's one thing I like about some of the Christian sayings. You get to the Father through the Son. The way we would interpret that in Vedanta is you get to the formless Brahman through the highest form that the human mind can comprehend, and that's called Ishvara in our tradition. And that's why you'll have that Trinity placed as God with form before your inner vision. Because if you are the pure vision, then you're going to want to get that through the Son, through the great Trinity. So he's not saying then I'm the gross. He's not saying I'm just the subtle. He's not happy with that, right? He's saying I'm the subtle most, Anaranian. So that means there's a causal place, behind everything. Like this causal person himself comes to you out of a causeless place. Why is it causeless? Because I see that he didn't have a beginning and doesn't have an end. He's been there for thousands and thousands of years for all people. So that means he must live forever, that Ishvara form. And Sri Ramakrishna said that nicely when he said, uh, there are many icebergs floating in the ocean, but some of them dissolve when the sun comes up. Others don't. When the season changes and it's all frigid in the Arctic, you can see everything's a solid mass of ice. When the sun comes up and it's more towards summer, even in the Arctic, things start breaking up. And you don't have to take an icebreaker ship out there and break them up yourself. They start coming apart, and there's these huge pieces of ice that float. The smaller ones melt back into the ocean from which they came. That's the smaller forms. That's the lower goddesses and gods and so forth. But there's some, Sri Ramakrishna said, some icebergs that almost become crystallized. The sun cannot melt them. Those are these great forms we're talking about that are causeless. We can't see their beginning, nor do we ever hear of their end. And therefore, even in periods of what they call Maha Pralaya, they'll go back in, like Vishnu goes to sleep on the 1,000-bedded snake Ananta, and on an ocean like this called Ekarnava. And that's the symbology of where these beings go in cosmic sleep. It's called Nidra Samadhi. And so there, even the Divine Mother says, I go back and become soluble into Brahman and store myself in Brahman when the end of an age comes. So this is all a great teaching for how everything gets stored in seed form. Even things like animals and insects and trees and the five elements, they have their origin back in this deep causeless place that will have to get watered in order for it to come out into the subtle and into the gross. So this is, of course, I could throw 3 or 4 charts if you've probably seen before, but basically that's the 3 bodies we're talking about, and the 5 kinds of space, actually the 3 worlds, what we're looking at here. So the subtlemost then is even beyond waking and dreaming. It's deep sleep. It's even beyond body and mind and intellect. It's this formless, um, causeless state. It's seedless. And there you'll find the great beings, the Trinity, for instance, living in this formless form. It's a nice expression. They have a formless form. So they're appearing to people out of formlessness to take a form, then they're disappearing quickly back into formlessness and they lose their form. And when people examine that, like great souls, rishis, yogis, and so forth, when they examine that, then they find out that they keep coming back to us again through the ages. We've seen them in our meditations in different lifetimes. So they must be there all the time while we seem to be passing and coming back. In other words, birth. He just said that, right? He said, this yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth. It's the third thing he says. And then he says after that, Om. So, and then after that, he says, Om Namaha. See, so it's all really very well directed inside from the gross to the subtle to the subtlemost and back to the gross again. And that's a cycle. So it's not just everything that's on a samsaric cycle. You too and your stages of consciousness are on cycles. Call them 24-hour cycles if you like, or call them a lifetime, 100-year cycles, or call it millions of years where beings are coming forth in different ages again and again. That's the benefit of studying time, like Patanjali did, and finding out the 6 gateways to time. The father of yoga calls them. There, that will really make you the witness. So here is the subtlemost. I am that. And then I am beyond the 3 qualities. And that's something we may look at in the 3rd class in 2 Sundays from now. I'll show you a little bit about the gunas, right? Because they're so particular to Vedanta. You don't find them anywhere else. I mean, Vedanta, Samkhya kind of thinking. Yoga borrows them too. So you've got these 3 um, qualities of nature, which here's why you want to get Kaivalya right. You want to get beyond nature, because if you don't, the 3 gunas will always be there in you. And the 3 gunas are going to give you periods of inertia, then they're going to give you periods of frenetic activity, and then they're going to give you periods of equanimity, which get taken away from you. It's called sattva. Oh, I feel good now. The next day, what happened? I'm restless again. So this tamas, rajas, and sattva, the 3 gunas, are another thing that's in cycle inside of you. So there's this one huge grand cycle and a bunch of little wheels, sort of like a clock, a bunch of little gears and wheels inside of the grand cycle that are going on. And if you become aware of them, what do you get? Witness consciousness, right? And what do you get after that? Kaivalya. And then what you can say, I am. In fact, you can take all of these off and just say, I am. Because that's the final conclusion of the seers. 2 words. You can put it all in that, I am. So something about the 3 gunas ahead of time before next Sunday or the Sunday after. And then I am endless knowledge. Here's where wisdom figures into the picture, because lower knowledge was not enough and will not be enough, particularly if it's used only externally. As you're looking further and further out into space, thinking you're getting deeper and deeper, but as you look further and further out in space, you're actually getting shallower and shallower. It's only when you look into this inner space, did you just say I'm the inner self, right? So it's only when you start turning your gaze inside, instead of evolution, go involution on it, and then you begin to see the inner worlds, what Christ called the kingdoms of heaven, what the ancient rishis called the Daharakasha, in the space of the heart, the size of a thumb, hidden. Then you start to penetrate the outer things with this honed intellect. And at that point, then you realize the real use of knowledge. It's paravid. It's what the wisdom rishis have been talking to you all about for centuries and millennia. which are contained in the revealed scriptures of the Upanishads, for instance, which is what we're studying right now. Did you forget that? In the wash of words that are coming at you. Oh, I'm in an Upanishadic mood. I'm in an Upanishadic atmosphere now. I've entered into the same time as the rishis. I've entered into that eternal moment where they teach. So they are causeless, aren't they? Because here they are again, telling us the same wisdom again from something that's been stored for thousands of years prior to Jesus. I am known by the agamas. So I mean, basically, he mentions knowledge, and then toward the end, if you want to bring it up, what about all the tantric worship? What about all the deities? I am known by them. You see, that self is known by these souls that are teaching everything from agama to tantra to yoga to samkhya to vedanta, all the way to the Advaitic level, which is this higher wisdom we just talked about. This is another cycle, isn't it? Inside, it's like you might say this is like the motion of the gears rather than the gears. Everything grows, as it were, or expands, as it were, by coming in contact with this higher knowledge. How do you prove that? Everything stagnates if it's not there. So you always have to look at the opposite effect on people, on humanity, on worlds, on the age, on the Kali Yuga. I say, where did that go? Why didn't my parents know about it? Why didn't they find it out and give it to me? Why is this complacency? And why this prevarication and putting things off later, which should be available to me now in this lifetime to transform me so that I too can claim I am, I am, I am, I am over and over again with anything that's real that comes at me emanating off of Brahman. How? Like this. Even a small lamp can remove a mass of darkness. Likewise, a tiny bit of this wisdom can destroy all ignorance. Practicing even a little of it, one does not return to this world of suffering again. Science remind you of Vishnu in the form of Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, Mahashram, the great Bhagavad Gita, when Sri Krishna says, even you practice a little of this yoga, Arjuna, you'll be freed. So how is that so? It's a huge heap of cotton in your mind, see? And you can't move and you can't think and you can't see because there's this huge heap of cotton that's clogging most people's mind. Thick as a brick, they call it. See? How would you like to have your mind, your head stuffed with cotton, starting with your ears, and it just filled up everything? It's that feeling of ignorance. So what to do? A match. Poof. In seconds, a heap of cotton is gone. You put a match to it. It's like that. It's also like what? It's like a mass of darkness removed by a small flame. Remember how Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said that you explore that there was this cave once that had been dark for thousands of years and nobody had seen it. They just heard about it. Then explorer once broke through the obstruction in the mountain into this cave, and he saw this darkness in there. And he lit a torch and walked in. The darkness had been hanging in the atmosphere for thousands of years, but how long did it take for it to go away when he brought a small torch in? The whole interior got lit up by a small torch. What happened to the darkness? So this is how Sri Ramakrishna talks to us about the need to and the ability to bring the light of these teachings into the cave of your mind and immediately do away with ignorance. It's not noble. It's not allowed there. It must go. I must kick it out. So get a match, get a torch, whatever it takes, and get rid of that ignorance in your mind so that you can say this, like the great rishis said. I wonder if we should maybe leave the rest of this chart so we can bring it back throughout the next two classes and go on to go on to explaining the rest of Sloka 1. Like I said, 3 weeks is not going to maybe even be enough to get through all these 18 slokas of a very pregnant and very nourishing Upanishad from thousands of years ago. Enough to say, though, before we leave this, is that these bubbles, you can see them constantly arising thought bubbles. That's what Patanjali, the father of Raja Yoga, said are the chitta vrittis, right? They're always rising. But if you looked at them from a standpoint of a witness, if you watched them long enough, you'd see that they also fall. So people don't have that ability. They just want to add more fire, add more flames to the fire. So they're not looking at their minds. Oh, my mind is such a mess. It's so restless. It bothers me. I can't even get a good night's sleep. And on they say. But they don't know that basically if they just watched it in meditation for a while, that it would go away. It's one of the great Buddhist meditations is to watch the mind. And, the Roshi, the Rinpoche, whatever kind of Buddhism it is that you're practicing, tells you, basically, if you watch the mind long enough, those clouds will go away. So just watch for the sunny day, in your 1 hour, 2 hour meditation, or in your zazen, which is longer. You watch it, and pretty soon you keep your awareness. You don't go to sleep. You don't get restless. You just watch. You're the witness. I am the witness. And when you do that, all of a sudden, the clouds go away. And there's an end of one cloud and the beginning of the next. It's just like Patanjali saying, there's an end of one moment and then a beginning to another moment. But in between the end of one moment and the beginning of the next moment, there's a space. That's where the sun is. So you're supposed to emphasize and accent, amplify that space and do away with thought, vrittis, chitta vrittis, squelch them completely. Not only the negative ones, which is good to start with, but the positive ones, because the positive ones are going to lead back to negative, right? So you don't know that. You think, oh, it's all positive now, and you go on with your meditation, and you get up from your seat, all of a sudden bad things start happening again. But did you react to those negative things, or did you just learn the lesson that in between the rising of the bubbles of the ocean of samsara, there's a space, and I can abide there. I'm going to take my residence there. It's called peace, living in peace. That's that goddess, Shanti, that's so wonderful. We labeled the body-mind mechanism as about these bubble thoughts that are rising and that need to be dissolving again too. We've assigned them the name. Then there on the ocean, we've assigned the endless ocean of cause and effect. Philosophical word for that's called karma. And, cause and effect also has other great teachings. I mean, it's one of the 5 great universal laws, for instance, is cause and effect. But of course, we're not talking about it in terms of action and reaction at that time. The waves of thought objects are there. So the bubbles are one thing, they're always rising, but how often do the bubbles get to turn into anything? So what does get to turn into things or has turned into things is the waves on the ocean. So those must have received more of your attention, like in deep sleep or in a past lifetime. And it's left an impression on your mind. So that's actually a wave there now. It's not a bubble. It's too bad you can't just deal with the bubbles, and there are methods for that. You do away with them quickly, let them rise and fall. Pramadina nasandeha kim karishami vrittiman, the Avatud says. They rise, but then I Buddhischa yata jale. These bubbles in water, I just let them settle back down before I go to sleep. So I'm going to have to meditate, and make the bubbles go away. It's not just I hope they go away, because they're going to come back again. If you're the witness, you're going to watch the rising and falling of them in dream and in deep sleep. And now you're the witness of that. You're not participating in it anymore, which is the advantage to being a witness rather than the participant. So basically, back to the point that the waves have become solidified on the ocean. They're still liquid, they're still moving, they're still rising and falling like the bubbles, but they have a much longer shelf life in the mind, if you want to use that expression. So we went through the I ams, we assigned the chart its various things. We'll come and say some more things using this guide chart, but let's go on and look at what he says next here. That is Om. And he says, Om, I bow to Narayan, uh, and I get close to him so I can go to the highest heaven with him. Vaikunta is the word. Shiva has Kailash, Vishnu has Vaikunta, Divine Mother has Manidvipa. These are these really very, very higher than heaven, higher than paradise realms of almost formlessness, where the thing you'll notice the most is bliss. It's like food there. We need food here, right? In that realm, you're living on bliss and it's sustaining you and you have it readily available all the time. You're around the fount of bliss itself. But before that, let's hear what he says, why this yogi becomes free by saying Om. This is a chart that's hanging on the wall here somewhere, or it was, I think, at one time. It's behind this one, yes. So we walk into our ashram here and we see this because it's the Divine Mother Shakti's way of saying what's in A, U, and M. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing because we have other places to go in the Upanishad, but at least enough of this to tell you why he says it gets you free of the grounds of birth and death and ignorance. There you see Om, Brahman. From the Ajna Shakti issues the first letter A. So this she gives that to Lord Brahma of the Trinity, and then he uses that, to start things moving. A is the first letter of everything. It's the first sound, so it's very pregnant and profound in that way. And then from A, then that will produce the letter U, and the U will have to come to an end, which is M. So this is how your breath goes. AUM all the time, in breath, held breath, out breath. That's how your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep proceeds through presence of objects, absence of objects, and dissolution of objects. So this one word Om is was the foundation of everything, and so important in all of India's philosophies, and in Buddhism too, that Om begins every mantra. It's the highest bijam. In fact, so much so that Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, Shisharda Devi, called it the word of Brahman. It's the one word by which designates Brahman and which Brahman uses. So she says further, after hearing the truth, thinking about it, and experiencing it for yourself, that's called Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, my devotee becomes fit for absorption in the spirit. After understanding the meanings of the separate letters discovered in the seed mantra of Mahamaya. So there's that Om coming forth. So I've already mentioned a little bit of it. Brahma is A, Vishnu is U, Shiva is M. A is the immanent world, U is the transcendent world, M is the absolute world. A is the waking state, U is the dreaming state, M is the deep sleep state. A is speech, U is life force, M is mind. A is mother, U is father, M is the guru. A is feminine, U is masculine, M is neuter. A is activity, U is balance, and M is inertia. A is past, U is present, and M is future. So applies to time too. A is gross form. Remember the word stula. U is subtle form, sukshma. And M is the causal form. I didn't give you the word for that. It's called karana, that which causes, like karma. So all of these assignments and more go in there, and we find them, the Divine Mother Shakti herself, Durga Devi, saying this in the great scripture Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which has been translated in English by Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Dev's, one of his 16 disciples, Swami Vijnanananda. And so we find these beautiful reminders of the importance of Om. The seed mantra of Mahamaya then is Hrim and Aim. Those are also worked out here, and they have to do with the 5 elements, the physical body, the 5 organs of action, the cognitive organs, the 5 pranas, the tanmatras, which are subtle matter in deep sleep and dream, the fourfold mind, which we looked at on the sailboat, right, the antakarna, and then when it gets to the causal, really the only thing you can really say about it is everything came to equilibrium, it stopped vibrating, and there was formlessness. But the formlessness was not empty, it was full of everything that preceded it. So you take emptiness and just add everything back in, right? It's like after M has to connect back with A again. And when the soul realizes this, what you think would be the result? Oh, I see everything's just going in cycles from A to U to M. What's that sound like? Sounds like birth, life, and death to me, and then rebirth back to A. If you don't understand this, then you're caught on that loop. If you do understand this, the ancient rishis say you're free from these three letters of Om called matras. You're free because you thought they were separate before. Now you connected them into one word, and that one word saves you from other triputis like birth, life, and death, right? So that's just a very, very quick rendering of a powerful word called Om. And really, maybe let's see what else she says about it so that we can respectfully depart this subject and go on to Vishnu himself. One should go into the region where there is no speech or thing spoken, absolutely free from dualities. It's called Akhanda Satchidananda. We already talked about Satchidananda. There with Om, meditate on that highest flame of consciousness. In this rare meditation, great beings have destroyed ignorance, realized their perfect nature, and established identity of the jiva, the individual soul, with Brahman. This is my highest self, says Durga Devi in Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. And this is what you say when you've accomplished that. I am, I am, I am. It's like almost, I'm not. You already finished that discipline. Now it's like I am, I am, I am. You understand neti neti leading to iti iti, right? If anything comes up in your mind, bubbles or waves, then you go back to neti neti. I'm not, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not. And then when you realize the truth that you're not anything changing, that you are the unchanging one with Akhanda Satchidananda, the jiva is one with Shiva, the Atman is one with Brahman, then you go back to say, I am, I am, I am, I am, iti, 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 iti. And you iti, iti bliss with Brahman. You just live on it. It's just too tempting when we come to the Divine Mother, how her words are so powerful when she puts them together. So let's end this subject of Om, our quick visitation to it here in this first class, by reading another of her great quotes. After balancing the breath via pranayam and cognizing the differentiated states of the bija mantra and what they signify, meditate on that bija and mentally dissolve the gross body into the subtle body into the causal body, and the causal body into the turiya state of Hrim, symbolized by the mantra M. This is the dissolution of Shiva when you get to M, right? Brahma is A, Vishnu is U, Shiva is M. So by the time you get to Shiva and you become to know him, be good to do that consciously, by the way, get to know Shiva, then that that it's like the end of Hrim. That's transformation is complete because Hrim is a bijam for transformation, for spiritual transformation, not the transformations you see going on out here, which lead to nothing but confusion. And before entering samadhi, then, focus upon me, the supreme deity, the luminous, self-effulgent goddess who is one with Brahman. So these are her great instructions in the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which then give rise to what's called the Devi Gita. Have you read that? I did put out some teachings on it, and it's enlisted in one of my books. I put the whole Devi Gita. Which book is that? Reclaiming Kundalini Yoga book I put out has the whole Devi Gita in New English in it. All right, so it's a profound, vast subject, but we're taking it in accord with this, right? Saying this Om, the yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth. And then he says Om, and what does he do? I bow to Narayan. He's the sustainer. He's the you of that Om. So obviously Brahma has already uttered the A, because remember it was given, the A was given to Brahma by the mother, right? She gave the first mantra to start everything going. So the Trinity stands ready to receive this A, and then we'll take it into the UM phases, which are ages long. One cycle's ages long. Those are called yugas. So let's look at Vishnu quickly. We have the time, I'm thinking. Let's look first at his immanent and transcendent reality. Is that chart that you can bring that chart up? And that is here. I did tell you that when you look at this formless form, he can all of a sudden appear in his Virat form. So you see, basically, he's just everything. It's interesting to know then that formlessness has everything in it. There's one great proof of it here is that when the deities who are eternal and without beginning, a middle, and end, because they've been with us through this whole mini cycle ride we're on, when they come out of formlessness, they tend to have a difficult time not completely blowing our minds, to use a expression. Like, look at Krishna on the Arjuna on the battlefield, who saw Krishna's Virat form and said, "Take that away, please." He really wanted to see it. When he saw it, then it was too much for him. It's a beautiful chapter in the Bhagavad Gita called Vishvarupa Darshanam that you can go read. I never translated the Gita into English myself. There have been so many good attempts at that already, but I did translate that Gita, that chapter into English. It's somewhere on a computer. So that can be brought forth and looked at. But that's the Vishvarupa Darshanam. Darshanam means to see or have upasana with, get close to, is what he's saying here. And when that happens, then you'll feel that heat of the yoga fire that's emanating off them, that gets rid of all the numbness of ignorance and so forth. Here again, if we want to borrow from the great Upanishad Mahastram, another one of those is Svetashvatara. Outside of the Rig Veda, which I said was my favorite, this is one of my favorite Upanishads. But I did take a little departure from beginning to explain how the Vishvarupa Darshanam form is so mind expanding. Now, basically, you can see there all the great deities, they're coming out of Vishnu's main head. Shiva on one side and Lord Brahma further down the line. You can see the one at the trunk is not hard to recognize, is it? That's, of course, Ganesha. Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Starts with Om when you say his word, his name. Prajapati, the teacher of all the gods and men, is listed there. Chandra, the moon, that's a god, that's a goddess, that's a deity. And Surya, the sun, that's a deity. And then you see Hanuman lifted there. He's the one as that monkey looks of a monkey. And then you see the seven Saptarishis beginning to be there. They're the original souls of the firstborn of the great beings that come out of the solar line, out of Lord Vashishta, out of Lord Brahma's line, including beings like Lord Vashishta. Of course, in the center of all is just this heart space we talked about, the all-pervasive Brahman. Everything is there in it. All minds are contained there in the cathedral of the heart. And then you see coming out like emanations going in different directions are the divine powers. On the one side of the battlefield, the suras, which are the gods. On the other side, the opposites, which are the asuras, the demonic forces. And he keeps them both well regulated. And then you see basically Ishvara is the very name for that form of his. So the Upanishad started off, the innermost Brahman, I salute. And that is Om. I became free from the circle of birth because of that, knowing that. Then I bowed to Narayan because he's God in form. And I saw that his conch, his chakra, that is his discus, it's called in English, and Gada, the club, had these profound significances. In this particular vision, he's not holding them, but I think maybe in the next one, we can see him maybe holding those. And then you see Ishvara there is right at the center then. He's the main form of God that Swami Vivekananda said is the highest concept of God that the human mind can comprehend, quote, unquote. And then you see Sri Krishna coming out of Vishnu down there, the avatar there, who will drive Arjuna's chariot, but not actually participate in the war. And then Arjuna himself, which represents humanity. And now we can read the quotes. Though the Lord, the cosmic projector of the heaven and earth realms, is one and indivisible, yet he is the real owner of all eyes, all faces, all hands and feet in the gradated universes. It is he who inspires them all to do their respective duties in accordance with knowledge of the past actions and tendencies of various beings. And that's, of course, fleshed out much more in other scriptures about how people have a certain character, certain karmas, certain perspectives. They take birth in certain families, they take bodies, and so forth, all based on these respective characteristics. Of that quote there from the Svetashvatara Upanishad, I like very much when it says in the gradated universes, because here we are thinking that although this physical universe is so vast, in fact, we can't find an end to it. It's just the meaning of Ananta. It's called infinite. And basically, if you were to look out into it, you wouldn't find an end to it. So there's no end to even one universe, but there's also no end to the kings of heaven within you. They go on and on too, just like with many billions of beings and many billions of deities. And you have those 7 billion souls collected here on Earth, or getting to head towards 8 billion probably. I lost track recently. Basically, it's this infinite manifestation of both Prakriti and Purusha, right? Prakriti and Jivas, that's the word he used here. So those jivas really are one with Shiva, but they're all in different at different levels of trying to understand that and realize it. That's why Divine Mother said, hear it, Shravana, think about it, Manana, and then reason it out and experience it, Nidijasana, in the last chart we were looking at. So I like that very much about making the universes multiple. The kingdoms of heaven within you, they're infinite. Just like there are many infinite areas and planets physically outside of you. The last quote here at the bottom of this chart, also from Svetashvatar. He was a great rishi. He was one of those that we know for certain had a family of children that he passed his wisdom on to. So that's why Svetashvatar Upanishad is so rich and so wonderful to read. It's available. It's more accessible to ordinary minds, even people who haven't been given the Dharma or the teachings. They read that, and it's a marvel. Another scripture like that in India is Yoga Vashishta. So if you can take Yoga Vashishta and take Svetashvatara Upanishad as your first reads, if you want to get into this kind of wisdom and look this deeply at not only wisdom that you have available, right? Endless knowledge you have in you, plus your own self that contains it, plus that Lord that he's offering everything to here, then that would be a good start for people. He says here then, Svetashvatar, with hands and feet everywhere, with eyes, heads, and mouths everywhere, with ears everywhere, he exists, pervading everything in the many universes. And higher than this personal Brahman is the Supreme Brahman, who attracts intelligent souls towards the highest goal of mukti, also called moksha. That's the liberation, right? Kaivalya. You can also plug in that word kaivalya there. Without feet, it goes everywhere. Without eyes, it sees everything. Without ears, it hears all. Though this impersonal Brahman is changeless, it seemingly grows beyond its own nature to formulate the objective universe. By the grace of the personal God, the aspiring soul becomes free of sorrows and transcends all desires. I know this omnipresent one who is concealed in the hearts of all beings, and by knowing which one becomes free of birth and death. We just had an expansion of the first of these three sentences of the sloka one of the Atma Bodha Upanishad, just right back in a perfect cycle to it. He talks about the knowing, I know, right? I know this omnipresent one who is concealed in the hearts of all beings, to Dharakasha inside. And the one thing here that becomes um, um, worthy of contemplation is that there's something beyond Vishnu. There's something beyond the Trinity. There's a personal ideal called the personal Brahman or Ishvara, but there's also the impersonal in India called Brahman itself. That word Om, that this this upasaka, this sadhaka here uttered, revealed that to him. He looked into Om and it showed him past M to the Turiya state. Because if you got on the cycle of AUM and you realize that you're the witness of it, the next thing you would think of is, where am I? Right? That's Turiya. You're now in that highest state and you're looking upon the formless Brahman, or what Buddha called nirvana. And that's been known in India for hundreds of years and thousands of years before Buddha, that there's this impersonal Brahman. And you might say to those who love the personal God, it's rather painful. I remember Sri Ramakrishna saying he saw one of his devotees in a dream vision. He saw one of his devotees who was attached to the personal God go to a room where Vivekananda and a few others were meditating on the impersonal God. And he looked in and got scared and ran away. So there's this, the devotees of the personal God are disinclined to go into the impersonal for whatever reasons. However, Sri Ramakrishna said about it, when you say, um, I'd rather enjoy sugar than eat sugar, nobody really knows the bliss of being sugar yet. So you'd have to have that experience of Brahman before you could put it below or outside of the experience of Ishvara. It's a more enlightened way of looking at things, I believe. Let's look at the second, while we have time, because we are making some good headway. And then we will have finished several slokas. Um, and I'll read you the final slokas. So by the end of this class, we'll have done 5 slokas of these. But before, in order to do that, let's look then at this particular chart, which I think is here. Hmm. There's a beautiful look at Vishnu. You can see his Gada there in his lower right hand. You can see his chakra in his upper right hand. You can see his Shankha in his upper left hand. And then he's got one other hand that has a flower in it. So basically, this is kind of a more symbolic and traditional representation of Lord Vishnu with mace, chakra, or discus, which he uses to sever the heads of negative beings with and bestow boons at the same time. And then that conch shell, which is so important to hearing what Sri Krishna has to say. What does he have to say? Well, at least in one of the scriptures, again, Bhagavad Gita, he'll give you the 32 points of the immortal Dharma. That's the eternal religion of Mother India. Quickly, non-hating, being friendly to all, being unattached to any location, remaining unconcerned, compassionate to all, being expert in everything you undertake, keeping the ego out of the picture, egolessness. I'll give you the English these. You can look at the others, like mauna next to it is, means silence. So practicing sparsity of words. Um, keeping yourself steady-minded, stiranatha, stiramatihi, and then suchihi, keeping yourself pure. Body, mind, and energy pure. Uh, be full of devotion for the Lord. Remain untroubled of mind. Keep contentment with you. Be self-controlled. That is your senses, yatatma. And anapekshaha means being desirelessness. Up to the upper right hand, uh, sangha vivarjitaha, free of all attachment. Keep the same mindset in censure and in praise. Befriend, be the same to friend and foe. Same in honor and dishonor. Be content with anything. Put that one on and try it. I dare you in this world. Devout mind, intellect. Keep your mind and intellect in the chamber of the heart. Um, um, be one who does not afflict the world, and so the world does not afflict you. Be the same in pleasure and pain. Be renounced in all actions. That is basically, I give all the fruits of my actions away to the Lord. I do everything for the Lord. And again, there, don't let the world afflict you. Renounce good and evil both, and other pairs of opposites, like pleasure and pain. Be the same in heat and cold, pleasure and pain. Be completely free of joy, envy, fear, and anxiety. You replace that joy with bliss, by the way. And then also, neither rejoice, hate, grieve, nor desire. And Sri Krishna says, those who follow this immortal Dharma of mine, 32 pointed, endued with faith, looking upon me as the supreme goal, and devoted, they are exceedingly dear to me. Um, of course, that's the quickest I've ever gone through all 32 points of the immortal Dharma for you, because we've run out of time. But basically, that gives us a good look at this middle of these 5 slokas we're looking at. So let me read them for you again to conclude. The innermost Brahman is Om. Saying Om, a yogi becomes free from the cycle of birth and death. Therefore, Om. And further, I bow to Narayan, having Shankha, Chakra, and Gada in hands. The Upasaka will go to Vaikuntha. That is, those who love Vishnu will go to his place. They'll come to him. And then what I didn't read, which we can because it's already been covered, the Brahmapura is a lotus, shining like lightning and lamp. The son of Devaki is Brahmanya, who has all the sacraments. He is Madhusudana, he is Pandarikaksha, he is Vishnu, he is Achyuta, he is Narayan, he is the one existing in all creatures, the causal person without a cause. That's slokas 1 through 5, which we've done our best to take up and study in 1 hour. So let's end here with a chant. Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvaititam Gagana Sadrisham Tatmana Shadi Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimlamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tanamami Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Hari Om Om